Hey guys, welcome to Vidovic Arts. I'm Josh, and today is a very special episode, a huge 3,000 subscriber little special insider scoop. So yeah, let's just get straight into it. This is what we've made so far on this channel. Yeah, here we go. Here it is. It's quite a lot of models. Now I'm gonna go through this a little bit into detail. First, considering I'm the only person here recording myself, I just want to say this is recorded without my normal setup, so I don't have my microphone and stuff, so it might be a little different. You might hear little tings and tangs, maybe a dog barking in the background or someone hammering, just because I'm in a shed right now. And I've set this up just so I can talk through almost like everything I want to go through and just, you know, reminisce about the past. Now, these are mostly made on this channel, but there are a few things that I haven't released, and a few things that I made before I even started the channel. So I'm really excited to show you what those are, and let's just get into it. Sorry if the camera is a little shaky. I'm going to be doing a lot of this handheld, so let's just get into here. What do we have? We can see right here the Space Marines that I'm currently working on. You can see they're a small portion of the overall collection that we have going. And we'll just start off in this corner. Here we have the Scorpion Rhino Hybrid, which I've sort of recently worked on, and the Halo Marines, I think I called them. Now these are pretty much Space Marines with a couple of conversions, like the backpack and the helmet and the gun and the legs and the body. So they're basically not really Space Marines, they're just the general shape of them. But this is definitely a hybrid of a Rhino, which you probably can notice just from that front and these bits here. Most of it has been changed just to be more of a Scorpion look. Now, right next to it, you can see here is some World War II variants now of like walkers. If I just look over here, you can see the Iron Harvest collection. Now, I was really inspired by Iron Harvest to kind of make my own version of a diesel punk kind of style of wargaming models, and I made these a very long time ago, probably like when I was, actually it was probably around the same time I was working on the Iron Harvest models. I thought, how cool would it be to have like World War II variants of like German and American mechs, and this is what I came up with. I never released them because I don't really know why. I think I was just not too confident in them. I kind of want to take them somewhere else possibly and make a full game out of it, who knows. But here are basically prototypes of some models that I worked on a while ago, and here's some tanks over here. We'll go to that side of the board when we get to it. We've got some of the Imperial Germans with the lemon tank, which is what I called it, because of, I didn't want to call it a lemon rust, but the lemon tank is pretty cool there. If you want to check any of those out, they'll be available over on the channel. Now these guys here are my D&D party group. So there's three different groups. There's this one here, and this one here. Now this was my first group, as in they were with the same people, but this was my first group of models that I made for the party, and I actually made them so there was 3 models per character, and you had like sort of, I think this is a Warforged, and that was his sleeping stance, or just like meditating stance. And that was his kind of like, you know, inquisitive, kind of look cool stance, and this was the attack stance. So you would swap out the models as you play along, but as you can imagine, that got quite tedious, and we only had, I think, maybe 3 games with these models, and I put in quite a lot of work, and some of them have broken. Like this guy, he has 3 models, but they're broken, so he's missing his attack stance. But yeah, there's quite a lot of work that went into those, and we barely even use them, so now they're kind of just NPC models, which are really great because NPCs are kind of definitely needed in towns. Now over here we have the pretty much anything with that stone-looking base right down there. That is the Underdark terrain set. So these guys were the Underdark campaign characters that we had for the party, and as you can see, there's only 2 because I decided that 3 was too much. Now, when it comes to the most recent party, which is right here, there's only one of each, and I'm pretty much sticking to that. I have kind of gotten lazy in a way, but I've spent more time and focus on the models themselves. So we don't have an attack stance or a resting stance. We've just got a cool pose stance for each model, and you can see here, they're all pretty cool. These are, well, I started releasing them over on Kickstarter for the exclusive club, and I stopped as soon as I started working on the Space Marines, but these will definitely all be released eventually when I get back into D&D models. Now, you might have seen these two things here. These are spells, which are kind of cool. They're like the attack, I'm not sure what it was called. You summon a thing that can attack things. And that was that for these characters. We had like a mermaid person and a dwarf, and that's what they could cast. Over here, right next to everything, I should have probably started with this model because it's really important. He's painted gold because he was my first successful scale model, and he might not look like is too important. I think this is one of the first models I released over on Thingiverse, but he is what allowed me to work out the actual scale of models. So I printed a bunch of these models, tweaking it slowly, and I kept comparing it to Warhammer scale models, and this was the one that ended up looking the best. So I painted him gold, and yeah, he's my first actual right scale model. And right down here is some of the dwarves. Now, I made a bunch of these dwarves because we were in Grackle stock, and if you guys have played D&D, that is a dwarven city. They're actually supposed to be dark dwarves, which is basically kind of like these guys over here. They're like purple with black hair, and they look like that kind of. They're actually under gnomes or whatever they're called. But these guys were supposed to be dark dwarves, and they're supposed to have purple skin. But I wanted to reuse them in future campaigns for on the surface, and I didn't want to print up a whole bunch and paint up a whole bunch of new ones, so we just kept them looking like normal dwarves, which I'm pretty happy with. I think they look cool. I think they were going to be more like peasanty dwarves, so they don't look like warriors or anything. They could be any kind of adventurer that you come across, but they're definitely cool little models. Now I need to readjust. Whoop. Now with the Underdark campaign, I played as a necromancer who summoned undead creatures, and I was basically lawful evil, and there was one moment where I actually played my part and I was super evil, and people weren't comfortable with what I did, so I had to change my character, and I changed my character to this guy right here, who I more or less stated was exactly the same as a necromancer, except he created war machines like these guys right here. I wanted to have a character that summoned or built undead creatures so I could have an army. And if you see behind the necromancer, there is a lot of undead characters, like a lot. I basically have an army of undead characters, and that was pretty much because I wanted to be able to summon an army, which I never got the chance to because I changed my character. But I'm not too upset about it. I think it's cool to have the army on standby. And yeah, over here are some more NPCs. They're just humans with swords. They're a bit grumpy. And here is some turtles. So what's cool about these turtles is the fact that I made them to be built. So the head, the arms, and the legs are separated from the body, and you can change them around if you wanted to. Now this was kind of like an experiment to, I think these are resin. So before everything, these were all single prints, like every single one of these, you couldn't build them yourselves. This was my first real test of trying to build models, and I learnt quite a bit, so that was just a test product. I haven't released these, so you won't be able to find them anywhere, but I do plan to work on them in the future. It's not too much work. I might just release them as they are, and people can customize them if they want to, but they're not released just yet. Now, if we move a little bit further down, we have some fish people over here. You can see they are from Slubladop, if my pronunciation is correct. And I printed all of these guys up with the FDM, no resin here at all. I customized a couple of them who didn't print properly, like this guy right over here. He has a Skaven claw, which is like the man catcher, and he was basically my slaver. I'm not sure if you can see him. Just because his spear didn't print properly, and I think I also put like a shield on his back, which wasn't his, but I thought that was really cool, being able to customize 3D printed models with official other models. Here's I think that's a Slubladop like statue, that's what it looks like. I still haven't released that. I should definitely get around to that, but I wasn't sure how I was going to release it. I intended to show off the whole city and stuff, but we're there for such a short time, I didn't get to record a lot of it, which really sucks. If we go right behind here, these aren't 3D printed, but I think anyone could make them. They're just bases and some toy spiders that I bought online for like, I think it was $1 for like 100 or something like that. They're very cheap, very easy to make, and again, I was going to make a video on it, but it was such a short video, I just ended up not doing anything for it. And the same with those bats in the background. I was hoping they'd be a lot smaller, but same thing, just some toy bats that I bought online. Same with that bear, based it, and they look really cool. I didn't even paint them. That's how cool they look. Now the bear I did, because he was a black bear, and it turns out black bears aren't the scary ones, it's the brown bears you gotta fear. Now, this is the Lizardman Battering-Ram, which is a very cool model, but it's not functioning completely right now. It kind of does, but it's kind of dangled a bit, needs a bit of a repair job, but it's a pretty damn cool model. Pretty old now, but it's pretty cool. And right next to the Battering-Ram are the Crock Cigars, and they are very cool. I think they could be printed up a little bit better on a resin printer just because of all the detail that got lost in the body. You can't really see much. I had to make it up by painting it, and well, they're very cool. I've seen some of you guys make them for yourselves. Very cool model. It's not my design, it's just a crocodile in armor from Total War, and I very much appreciate their design compared to the original one. And over in the back we have the Dreadsaurian, which is an absolute beast. I think it is actually the biggest model on the table. It's 3 parts, so the tail, the body, and the head, and that extra thing on the top here, which is just a plate which was printed separately. But he is very cool. I'm very happy with how he looks. I think everyone who sees him is just like in awe of how big it is. Yeah. Right next to them we have some Jezzails, the snipers, the Skaven snipers, or the whole Skaven force that I've made. And honestly, it looks a lot smaller than I remember, because I remember this was one of the first armies I'd made 3D printed, and I was so impressed that I managed to 3D print an entire army. And yeah, there's not many guys here. So we've got the Rattling Gunner and a Commander. I can't remember what I gave his name, but he's a pretty cool looking model. We got the, oh god, I've got to test my memory here. The the gas throwing guys. Oh, forgive me, I can't remember their names. And we got some other guys. I've just forgotten all the names of Skaven, and I play a lot of Vermintide, which is very shameful for me. Now this is a Doom Wheel, I remember that one. The Doom Wheel and the cannon, which I've forgotten a name. Now this other model over here I have not actually shown off, and I'm really proud of it. It's actually a like $2 toy, and I bought a bag of them, and I can't really explain what it was. You know how you get like those pull-apart Christmas pom-pom things, and you sometimes get like random, like a frog that you can flick? It was made of that plastic, and it was actually like a saber-toothed tiger, and it was underneath all this, and I sculpted that on top, and it came out really, really cool, and I wanted to put riders on these and make them like Skaven rat riders, but I never got around to it. Now I made these before I even started the channel, that's how old they are, but I love them, they're really awesome. And we have the Skaven flying ship, which isn't technically Skaven. Anyone could really use this for any kind of army of any kind that has the technology to do so. This is just such a cool model. I love this one. I would love to revisit this flying ship, or even just ships that go in water. There's no reason why you couldn't chuck this in the water. The way it's printed is it's sliced right down the center here, so I think it could go in water, possibly. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's sliced all the right down here where those bolts are. So it could be a water ship if you were a little creative. completely free over on Thingiverse. Go check it out. It's pretty much all of these models are completely free, I think, except for these Dwarves. Now you can get a couple of them, but I decided to throw most of them on the exclusive thing. A lot of the D&D ones are exclusive, especially like the single models, but the rest of it's completely free, and there's so many here. Alright, now, oh my god, I'm running out of air. Now to go over to the other side and talk about the other guys. And before we do, here are some World War II guys. We've got like a World War II sniper. I think these are Germans. This guy's a little bit of a creative heavy machine gunner. This definitely was not a thing in World War II, but it looked cool, and I thought, yeah, that's cool. This little thing here is also pretty damn awesome. This is I think a Maxim AA gun, so it's a World War II US Army anti-aircraft gun, and I always loved the shape of it, and I love I think I played it in Men of War. This thing is an absolute beast, and I thought, this thing already looks like a mech, it just needs legs, so I just made some legs. And that's the model. I'm really happy with how that looks. I would happily make an army of those guys, but like I said, I kind of dawdled on that because of how much I was very unsure as to where I was going with it. Now we have the Polania faction from Iron Harvest. I'll just get them facing towards the camera. I keep getting so many requests for these guys to be like, I gotta keep working on it, and I gotta come up with some sort of tabletop rules, and I gotta work on the other factions. I know I do, and I definitely will. There's just so many things to make. I'm sure you can imagine how much kind of mental pressure I have working on all of this stuff, because I want to work on so much. I've got Orcs right here, which I've been desperate to come back into and work on them. I've got the Space Marines that I'm doing, I've got all the D&D stuff, and the Skaven, and oh my god, it just keeps going. There's just so many things I want to work on, and unfortunately I'm only one person. But these are pretty awesome. I am really happy with how they look. I think one of the coolest things about working on this was being in direct contact with the team that works on Iron Harvest, which is really awesome. I showed them the models, and they gave me a free copy of the game, which was absolutely awesome. And the original concept artist for the entire concept of these guys was Jacob Brzezowski, and he's actually seen my stuff, and he ordered one of these for himself, and he's the only person that I have sold any of this stuff to, and he loved it, and I was absolutely ecstatic about that. That's one of the highlights of this entire board of stuff, the fact that he has one of my models, which was absolutely awesome. Now we have the Orcs, or the Gobbos as I call them, these little dudes down here. I think these were one of the last prints I did of this size with the FDM, because I don't know, I just couldn't handle how well, they're a lot bigger than they should be. If I compare them to these Polania guys, you can see they're about a head shorter, which is, I mean, that's not how big Gobbos are supposed to be, or Gretchen. They're supposed to be really small. So there's a very tall Gretchen Gobbos, and I think I could print them way smaller on a resin printer, and I would love to come back to them and just see what I can do. Now we've also got the tanks, which was, you can see here the different scales. We've got one here, which was my first print, and pretty much everyone said that is way too small, but it's the right size for Gobbos, so that worked out for, that's a Gobbo tank. It's got its little guns here on the side, and the turret, which is just really cool. And we've got here, this one is basically the exact same as this one right here. I decided to print up two, just so I could have a different variation. It's exactly the same, let's face it. It's just the looted tank. And over here we have the War Boss, which is just a beast of a model. I really love this model. We've got the little Gobbo on the top with his gun. Unfortunately, nothing really moves. I kind of decided to make things move kind of when I got to the Dreadnoughts, to be honest. But I think it would be pretty cool to have his arms move up and down. But they don't, unfortunately. Maybe we'll make another War Boss in October. We've got some War Boys here. Basic guys. They're very chunky, very muscly. I think I'm very happy with that, but I think with a resin printer I could have printed them a lot thinner. I wasn't really thinking when I designed them, but I'm very happy with them. I can definitely pick them out in a crowd as my orcs compared to other people's. We got some flash gits here who are based off the Dawn of War game, and these are just awesome models. I love that design. And we're already jumping over to almost the Space Marines. Some killer cans. We've got the 2 scales here, once again, same with that tank. I designed this guy first and he was way too small and people were saying it's a baby killer can, and yeah, I went back and designed it again and made this bigger. Now, I really didn't know what scale it was supposed to be because I had no models for reference, which it sucks, but I've done the exact same thing with these dreadnoughts. I really had no reference models. All I used was some pictures and I did my best, and hopefully it's the right scale. We've got the Space Marines here, which are really awesome. They are my current project, and you can see here there's the heavy machine gunners and some of the assault marines. But these guys here were actually one of the first 40k models that I worked on, and they're all on the FDM. They came out really cool. I'm really impressed with that, and I can use them pretty much for, you know, anything if I wanted to go back and convert stuff. They're the things that I've been basing it off. With all of these guys, they're all based off this model that I originally made. We've got a Rhino in the back and the custom Dreadnought right next to him. I'm definitely going to be working more on these Rhinos. I'm going to be making the Razorback and you know, the ones with the cannons, and it's just going to be cool. You can see here one of the turrets that I have. This is available over on, with the supporters. They get this if they want it, and I'm just going to take the turret off, and I'll be able to do that once I have the actual fitting for it. But that's pretty cool, I reckon. Very cool turret. And we're back in D&D land here with some monsters, released and unreleased. Here we have the Red Dragon. Very cool model. I think when I made this, I didn't expect it to look so cool, but it came out pretty awesome. And the base itself, which is that gold template. And we have some guys down here, which I never got around to releasing, and that's pretty much because I printed with a setting that looks really horrible up close. You can see here the lines are really ugly, and the reason why I did that was because I wanted to print it really quickly because we had to encounter these guys in the next session. So I think I printed up, maybe 8 of these guys on a very low setting, and they took around like a couple hours. I can't remember how long, but enough to sleep through and have 8 new guys and then paint them up for the next session. And they were cool, but I'd have to reprint them just to show off the actual quality that's in them. Right next to them is a Demogorgon, which is, it's a pretty cool model. I think I could have done better. I think it should have been much larger scale because they're supposed to be like, I don't know, 4 times, 8 times the height of that, and that would have been a huge, colossal model to make, but it would have been cool. I'm not a big fan of the way these guys look. They got the 2 baboon heads and the lizard legs and the tentacle arms, but I went for what D&D supplied, and that is the design that they came up with, so I thought, why not go with it? And behind them we've got some elementals, which I'm a huge fan of. These are the exact same model, just painted and prepared differently. So we have one that's kind of like more earthy with the trees coming out the top, and the other one more hot and like lava-y. And I did both of these. I screwed this one, the painting up on the base, but he's still a very cool model. Now right next to him is a giant, and I don't think I've ever shown off this giant. He is not 3D printed. He's completely hand sculpted, so he has a, I think, aluminium foil underneath his bones, and I think I worked up with some warbler, and then I sculpted with epoxy, and I really love his face. I can see his face right there, if you can see it. He's just got a real goofy looking face. Paint job's a little bit messed up at the moment, but he's very cool, very cool. I'd love to make one of these and show you guys how to make them, because they're really easy and fun to make. He's pretty much the exact same as these guys back here. He's almost the exact same way I made this guy here. Now, if you've seen how I've made him, you could probably make a giant off the same technique. And we have some guys hiding behind the red dragon. We have some Chaos Marines, and I'll just push the red dragon out of the way. Now, I definitely want to come back to Chaos, the Space Marine, Chaos Space Marines. And I will, but for now, that's all we have. We have some maggots here, and same thing, they're just aluminium foil, and I've sculpted on top of that. We have this slug here, which is just so cool. I really love this model. It's an actual snail shell, or sea slug snail shell, and I've sculpted the rest on, and I really love this model. I think it's one of my better sculpts actually, but I kind of think that shell is doing most of the work for me, unfortunately, but I love this model, very cool. And behind here we have something that's kind of started to fall apart. I basically just slopped some epoxy together and just started going wild, and I made kind of like a demon pustule thing that was once a human, but is now very disgusting. Very happy with that. These are awesome just to make, just for fun. If you've got the time, you just slap some stuff together, and if it holds, you get lucky and then keep sculpting. Well, I think he might have an aluminium ball underneath. He's definitely got a couple boils on him. And right next to them are some of the Chaos Warriors, which were some of my first models as well. They are very, very square and rigid, and you can actually see the poly count on them. Now, this is pretty much because I went from like making games that were very low poly to making models that are supposed to be very high poly, and it was a bit of a learning curve, but these are very cool models, definitely fun to look back on. And yeah, you can see they've got the square bases because I was coming straight from Total War Warhammer and I thought they still use square bases, but apparently not. Now, this guy is absolutely gorgeous. I really love him. He's not 3D printed, like I said before. He is all completely hand sculpted, and he was absolutely probably the most fun I've had sculpting a model ever, just hands down. He was just he's just a ball. He's just a ball of aluminium foil and a whole bunch of stuff. And painting him was just a blast. I'd love to make another one of these guys just for fun. And same with the dragon behind him. Dragon was a little bit more difficult just because of those wings, but it was fun. I can't express how fun these are just to make, just because it's chaos. It's absolute chaos. You basically stab holes, put boils on them, draw lines through them, you know, do whatever you want, and then paint them, and they look good. That's what's awesome about him. Like his weapon here is just a pencil. That's how cool that is. It's a pencil that I've snapped in half and added, like, you know, like a little axe shape on it. Very easy stuff. And lastly, but not least, well, we have more models, but they're not going to be very much on display here, and I'll show you why. We have that guy right there. He's pretty awesome. I think a lot of people love that model. I don't like the fact that people try to sell that model. That's very annoying. I haven't tried to sell it at all, but there's some people that, you know, they're very sneaky. They're basically terrible people who go around trying to sell models as their own. Go away. It's not your model. It's not mine. I modeled it, but it's not mine to sell. So don't try to do that. And we got the dice towers. Very cool. I actually thought I had more dice towers. I think I'm gonna have to make some more just because I love dice towers. Now that is pretty much the whole table's worth of stuff, but it's not really the entirety of what I've made, which is really annoying. There's a lot of stuff like directly behind here. We have a cart that I've made. We've got some walls. I made this for my campaign. This is a door for like a dwarven keep or a dwarven mine, and I made them solve a riddle and the door would open and they could go through. And we've got this entire thing itself I made for, so there's doors that you can put on each one of these entrances and make your own little tomb. Very cool. I had a lot of fun. This is a lot of fun making these, and you can see here this is another, it's kind of like underground. It's supposed to be like walls, and you can jump on top of them and do whatever you want, and you can see the cages. Like, we had a prison that we had to break out of. We've got a whole box here of 3D printed stuff that I've just made. Like, here's like a little what is it, like a furnace of some sort. This is from Slibladop. I definitely should release this. This is based off a picture from the D&D book from the Underdark. Very, very accurate. Just was a pain to make, but very cool. Yeah, you can just see I've got so much stuff that I've unreleased and kind of just give them to my D&D group. And this is another thing here that I've been experimenting with. It's the locking mechanisms for tiles. I've made a couple of tiles here and there. This is kind of just to make my D&D group have more of a customized game. And since I played Blackstone Fortress, it's pretty much where I wanted to go with this, just to have tiles that I can swap and change out. And you can see there's a lot you can do here, so each one of these comes off. Obviously, I haven't released these, but they're a work in progress. I would love to take something like this to Kickstarter, just because of the amount of work that goes into it. I have to make sure that everything works before releasing it, and I want to have a lot of variety. I know there's a lot of Kickstarters out there already that have this kind of stuff, which is kind of a deterrent in one way or another. Is there anything here? Yep, there's a whole bunch of stuff. So boxes, some bookshelves. These are all made. All of this is made by me, pretty much. I sculpted everything on that table is made by myself. All of these boxes and everything. I really don't like the idea of taking other people's work and just saying, oh, I made it. But that's just my own mindset, pretty much. These are some houses that I was working on quite a while ago. They're kind of like a modular system, so you can pull them apart. You can go inside the roof if you want to. And there's a whole bunch of them, so you can customize things and swap things around. Very much a work in progress still. Here's another dice tower. This is broken, but the dice tower, that's very cool. You know, you chuck the dice in at the top, come out the bottom. Very fun. You can see there's quite a bit of stuff that I haven't released yet, which means I've got a lot of stuff to release in the future. Now, everything that I've showed you, you've pretty much probably already seen on this channel before, but I've just decided I'm going to put it all in one go. We've got a couple other things right down here, which are basically the broken pile. So, sadly, my Necrofex Colossus has had better times. He's just got a loose limb right there. So that's where I intended to repair my things. Now, I'm just going to get them in the background. I have plans to work way more on this kind of stuff. I'm actually currently moving house very, very soon, and I'm going to have to set up all of this all over again. But I think the hardest part is going to be packing it, so I need to be very careful with some of the stuff. There's the dog barking. I'm going to have to be very careful with some of this stuff. But we're going to have way more in the future, so that's something to look forward to. Yeah. A very huge thank you to all of you who have watched all the way through here. And for subscribing, massive thank you. It's really awesome having you guys here and supporting me over on Patreon, or even just here, just in the comment section, and letting me know what you think of all this stuff back here. It's an awesome privilege to have you guys watching me, and I'm very thankful, and I can't wait to spend the next couple of years working on this stuff and having an even bigger collection. There's a dog sneaking around on the floor there. So let's hope for another, I don't know, X amount of years on these, and keep printing, and as always, stay awesome, everyone. See ya.